President Trump likes to make deals. Everything is a transaction. And today, it was a trade deal with the United Kingdom. It's the first major agreement since President Trump rattled the world and began announcing strict tariffs on foreign countries. Here's the president in the Oval Office making the announcement.
The UK will reduce or eliminate numerous non-tariff barriers that unfairly discriminated against American products, but this is now turning out, I think, really to be a great deal for both countries because it'll be really great for the UK also. So they're opening up the country. Their country is a little closed, and we appreciate that. They'll also be fast-tracking American goods through their customs process, so our exports go to a very, very quick form of approval, and there won't be any red tape. Things are going to move very quickly both ways.
As the president mentioned, the UK will streamline its custom process for goods coming from the United States. The plan also aims to boost American exports of beef and ethanol. The United States is cutting tariffs on British cars, steel, and aluminum. The agreement still needs to be finalized, but Trump says it will all be written up in the coming weeks. Earlier, I spoke with Secretary of Commerce Howard Lutnick. Mr. Secretary, nice to speak to you, sir.
Really great to be here today.
Well, congratulations is in order. I know that you said that President Trump is the closer, but you did an awful lot of heavy lifting on this. So tell me, the Prime Minister of the UK says this is truly historic. So tell me why this is truly historic.
Well, we've opened up the UK market. So, for example, we've never been able to sell beef, soft drinks, machinery. They put these tariffs and non-tariff barriers. They just wouldn't let our beef in. They wouldn't let our vegetables in. They wouldn't let our fruits in. So they've agreed to open their markets to the tune of $5 billion a year. Our exporters can now access their markets, and that's a huge, huge thing. And it was only President Trump's tariff policy that allowed that to happen.
Well, what took so long? I mean, I can't imagine the UK can produce so many of those things themselves. Were they getting it cheaper other places? I mean, what took them so long that it took you and the president to get them to open these markets?
Exactly. So what they did historically is countries took advantage of the United States, and then other countries pushed really hard. So they'd buy beef from Australia, or they buy beef from Brazil, and they do transactions with everyone else. So the idea for us was, come on, let's work together. Let's find the place, sort of the sweet spot in between, where American ranchers and producers and our entrepreneurs are the best, and we can sell to them. And okay, they'll buy less from third-party countries, and that's the idea. So I think we're really excited about the way this has worked out.
You know, it's so interesting. The president said that tariffs are so misunderstood. And just even how you explain this is that a tariff doesn't just involve two countries, is that the other countries play the tariffs in the sense that if there's a huge tariff on an American product, then they move in and sell their product. So everybody sort of plays the tariff game.
Exactly. Exactly right. So this is all a big giant puzzle. Right. Exactly.
All right, now, how about the EU? I mean, that's a whole nother thing. Do we have a tariff situation with the EU? Because Britain ducked out of the EU in Brexit. So what about the EU?
So today was the Brexit dividend, if you will, right? You had a great transaction with Britain, only at 10%. Remember, we set the policy for the EU at 20%. So their rate is much higher, and therefore I think what will happen is they have a longer way to go. Remember, we had balanced trade with the United Kingdom, and we have a $235 billion trade deficit with the EU. The EU does huge amounts of business with China, and they've got to sort of figure all that stuff and settle it out. So I think this stuff just needs to be settled out. We're going to work with the EU, but it's a tougher slog.
In terms of the deal that's worked out, and I know the president said the details still have to be worked out, how long is the lag period? When can the American consumer expect to sort of feel what has happened today with the trade deal? I mean, I've watched the market, and the market's responding, but the consumer, when can the consumer sort of feel this?
All right, so the the British Parliament has to take down their tariff rates. So that'll happen over the next 2-3 weeks, about that long. So in less than a month, this will all be done and dusted. So our expectation is the tariff rates will come down, our ability to export will be upon us in a month, and we'll start going. So you're going to see growth. You think about it, we have 5 billion more exports to the UK, 6 billion in revenues from the UK, right? And all these products open. Yes, we, of course, as you heard the president say, we protected them on aircraft parts. We were very helpful to them on airplane parts, right? We're going to do a deal on steel and aluminum, so they're sort of inside our trading area. And I think we've helped them a lot. We've probably saved maybe 75 to 100,000 jobs in the UK. That's why they're thankful. That's why they're opening up their markets. And that's why this is a win-win for both countries. Donald Trump drove the right strategy, and he closed it last night. And he just made the deal better. Basically, simple way to say it, the best deal maker in the world made the deal better.
Did he micromanage the details? You know, so you talk about airplane parts or exempting Rolls-Royce parts. I mean, did he micromanage that, or did he, did he say to you, do we have a good deal, and should I close it?
Okay, it's very simple. Donald Trump's in charge. This is the simplest thing. So when we talk to the UK and we're talking about cars, I call the president, we talk about it, and he approves the idea. So in this case, there were 100,000 cars. They're a small producer, right? We buy 16 million cars a year in America. So letting the UK only pay 10% for 100,000 cars, the president decided, okay, we'll do that. We'll protect their car industry, provided they open the market the way we want them to open it. And that's how it works. So each time we create one of these deals, we know it's going to be a template for other countries in the world to take a look at. And that's why we're very, very proud of this UK deal. It shows what is possible. And remember, this is with an economy that only started with 10% and has balanced trade. You know, you've got all these countries, like you said, the EU, with a $235 billion trade deficit. They have got to help us fix that. Because remember, if we have a $1.2 trillion trade deficit, if we cut that 25%, that's $300 billion, that's 1 point of GDP, right? We're adding to GDP by letting our farmers and ranchers and producers export. That's going to grow our economy, and that's why we're so excited about this deal.
Okay, we see the excitement today. We see you in the Oval Office and the president. But we don't know how the sausage is made. So can you take me back? Give me an idea how many hours you're spending on this, whether they're phone calls going back and forth, Zoom calls, whether you had to make trips to England. Tell me how the sausage is made on this.
Okay, so we started talking. The first conversation we had was back right at the end of February. We said, look, tariffs are coming. He ran on tariffs. Let's go. Let's get started now. They picked their trade. They started with their trade minister, and then they realized they had to break out of the box and do something different. They picked this gentleman named Varun Chandra, who is really an exceptional person and a businessman, and he set out to get a deal done together with us. I would say we probably met 15, 20 times. Because remember, this was not a headline deal. This is a detailed deal. This is actually a really, really intense, detailed, and rigorous transaction that we've gone over together. So 15 times with me, 15 times with Ambassador Greer from our U.S. Trade Representative, just line by line, working it out. Look, you want to save your jobs in autos. You need some specialty because Rolls-Royce makes engines that go on Boeing jets. Are you going to buy Boeing jets? And we said they're going to be announcing $10 billion acquisition of Boeing jets today. So this is all give and take to try to make a fair deal with the 6th largest economy in the world. And we did it. We have tariff revenue. We have export revenue, but it's really just huge amounts of analysis and give and take. And as we discussed, sometimes there's third-party countries that have been getting advantage for the fact that we were locked out, and that's going to end.
Were there any no's? I mean, were there any sort of like absolutely nots from either country?
Say that again?
Were there any absolutely no's in the negotiations, something that neither side wanted to budge on?
Oh, Of course. Always, when you're negotiating, it always comes down to absolutely not, that's a deal breaker, this is a deal breaker. But, that's why we have the president. When we get blocked up, the president can break the logjam. That we use the president, the greatest deal maker in the world, we use him for what he's best at, which is getting that deal done. So we found our way through it. Autos was a really, really tough spot because our model for autos is if you don't make autos here, you have to pay 25%. And so the fact that the UK convinced us to let 100,000 cars come in at only 10% was a huge change that the president had to make that decision. He did that, and that got, again, got the ball rolling to bring this deal home.
Okay, you got your victory dance today, and congratulations. What's next for you?
Well, there's so many countries where we're going to have templates for small countries where we'll pick one or two countries, we'll get a deal done with them, and then we'll sort of send that to all the other countries who are similar and say, does this work for you? And so we'll have small, we'll have medium, and then, of course, the large countries, they're just bespoke. You have to do one by one and work it through with them and work it out with them and go through the details. There's no way you can do it swiftly if it's a giant country. We've got lots of countries who are leaning in, lots of countries who are working hard, and I think we'll get them done. But as you saw today, if you're really going to do line by line, if you're really going to take down those tariffs, if you're really going to grow our exports, then it's just a strong, rigorous, thoughtful approach, and there's no other way to do it. You can't rush the fact. We could rush and say we have a deal done with X, Y, and Z, but the deal won't be as good, and it won't be done. And our view is let's get the right deals, let's get them done, let's do this once and only once, and let's do it for America.
Well, it's enormously complex, and as I said, congratulations. Thank you for joining me, sir.
Thank you. It's really nice to be here.
People think news just happens. It doesn't. It happens because there's someone there to capture the moment, to explain it and share it. That's my job. I go where news breaks and give you the facts. Join me for The Record on Newsmax.